Griffith, Indiana, November 1st, 1981. John Blaylock was 51 years old, a steel worker, a father of 3, someone who followed the same routine every day. So when he didn't show up for work one morning, his co-workers knew something was wrong. It wasn't like him to miss a shift without calling. 2 of them went to his apartment to check on him. Inside, they found John dead in his bedroom. He had been stabbed multiple times. The apartment showed signs of a struggle. Blood was found in several areas of the home. The scene pointed to a violent confrontation. Investigators collected everything they could, including biological evidence. But in 1981, DNA testing wasn't useful yet. There was no way to link those samples to a suspect. The evidence was stored, and the case went cold. Then in 2018, the file was reopened. A new detective took over, named John Mowery Jr. This case mattered to him for a reason. His father had been one of the original investigators decades earlier. Now he was looking at the same evidence with new tools. As he reviewed the evidence, one detail stood out. The amount of blood suggested the killer had been injured during the attack, meaning some of the DNA at the scene didn't belong to John. It gave investigators a second profile to work with. That evidence was sent for modern testing, including forensic genealogy. The results narrowed the suspect pool to one extended family, something that would have been impossible decades earlier. After ruling out other relatives, investigators were left with one name: Gregory Thurston. He had once lived in Indiana but was now in Oregon. His past included multiple violent offenses, but he had managed to stay out of serious trouble for years. On October 29th, 2024, Thurston was arrested by the Eugene Police Department in Oregon after investigators confirmed a familial DNA match. A discarded cigarette belonging to Thurston's brother played a key role in narrowing the search. Thurston was later extradited back to Lake County, Indiana, to face murder charges. When confronted, Thurston didn't deny what he'd done. More than 40 years after the murder, he was arrested and charged. The motive remains unclear. Investigators believe it may have been a robbery or a confrontation with someone John barely knew. For John's children, it was the first real answer they'd ever had. After decades of silence, the case was finally closed. Chevy Chase, Maryland, May 2nd, 2001. Leslie Prier was 49 years old. She worked at a non-profit and lived a quiet, predictable life. When she didn't show up for work one morning, her employer grew concerned. She was reliable and never missed a day without notice. They contacted her husband, Carl. Carl returned home and immediately sensed something was wrong. There was water on the floor, blood in parts of the house. A rug had been moved and was heavily stained. The layout suggested the scene had been disturbed. He searched the home and eventually went upstairs. In the master bathroom, he found Leslie's body inside the shower. She had been attacked and killed. Investigators determined someone had tried to clean the scene before fleeing, but traces of evidence were still left behind. There were no signs of forced entry. Nothing appeared stolen. Whoever killed her had likely been inside the house before. DNA was found under Leslie's fingernails and entered into CODIS. There was no match. The case went cold. More than 20 years later, detectives tried something new. In 2022, they uploaded the DNA to a forensic genealogy database. This time, the technology had finally caught up. The results pointed to a man named Eugene Theodore Gligor. What shocked investigators was his connection to the family. Years earlier, he had dated Leslie's daughter. Police believe the relationship ended badly, and resentment may have lingered. Something investigators believe may have resurfaced years later. On June 18, 2024, Gligor was arrested in Washington after police recovered a water bottle he discarded at Dulles International Airport. DNA from the bottle matched the profile found under Leslie's fingernails. Gligor was charged with first-degree murder. He has never confessed. In May 2025, Gligor pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. On August 28, 2025, he was sentenced to 22 years in prison. At sentencing, he claimed he could not remember the killing due to substance abuse, but after 23 years, the evidence finally told the story. Louisiana, 1986. A fisherman on Lake Pontchartrain noticed something floating near the shoreline. It was the body of a young woman. She had been strangled and stabbed. Investigators determined she was killed elsewhere and dumped in the water. But no one knew who she was. She had no identification. No missing persons report matched her. Medical examiners determined she was approximately 8 months pregnant at the time of her death. That detail was released publicly in the 1980s in hopes of identifying a missing pregnant woman, but no match was ever found. Investigators released sketches and details to the public. The case drew attention across the region. Nothing worked. For decades, she was known only as the Lady of the Lake. Then in 2022, a cold case unit secured funding for advanced DNA testing. In April 2023, the victim was officially identified as Pamela Lee Hopp, sometimes listed in records as Pamela Lee Hupp. She had gone missing in 1986. At the time she was killed in 1986, Pamela already had a young daughter who was being raised by relatives. Because she had been living a transient lifestyle and using aliases, including Deborah Gale Justice, her family believed she had simply started over somewhere else. She was never officially reported missing. Investigators later confirmed she had been living under that alias in Florida prior to her disappearance. Investigators believe Pamela was traveling through Louisiana and encountered someone she trusted. She was likely robbed and possibly killed by a partner or acquaintance. Her killer has never been identified. As of early 2026, no arrest has been made. The St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office continues to seek tips related to her death. But in 2024, nearly 40 years later, Pamela was laid to rest under her real name. The Lady of the Lake was finally known. Winnebago County, Wisconsin, 1963. Wayne Pratt was 24 years old. He lived next to a gas station where he worked part-time. Most nights he would wait at home until a customer arrived, then walk over to pump gas. One night he stepped outside and never came back. His wife Marie went looking for him. She found Wayne in the back room of the station, stabbed to death. Police collected blood-stained evidence, including a blanket. They preserved what they could, hoping it might help someday. But in 1963, DNA testing didn't exist. The evidence was stored. The case went cold. Marie never remarried. She died without knowing who killed her husband. Decades later, a cold case unit reopened the file. In 2023, modern DNA testing on the blanket produced a definitive match. The DNA belonged to William Dockstader, confirming him as Wayne Pratt's killer. Investigators revisited old interviews. Details that once seemed minor suddenly mattered. One name resurfaced: William Dockstader. He had been struggling financially at the time and had stolen gas from the station. After Wayne's death, Dockstader's wife discovered a bloody knife hidden in their home. She was told to forget about it, and she did. Dockstader had died in 2022, a year before the DNA confirmation. The case was classified as exceptionally cleared due to the death of the offender. There would be no trial, only confirmation. February 15th, 1974. Springbrook, Wisconsin. A motorist spotted a body in the snow along a rural road. The woman had been stabbed and left in a ditch. Nearby, investigators found a single stocking cap. No ID, no purse, no clear suspects. She was later identified as Mary Kathleen Schlase, a 25-year-old artist from Minneapolis. She had been hitchhiking to Chicago for an art show, something that was common at the time. Police believed she accepted a ride from the wrong person. For nearly 50 years, the case remained unsolved. Then in 2023, investigators tested the stocking cap using modern DNA methods. Inside the fabric, they found a male DNA profile. Forensic genealogy led them to John K. Miller, an elderly man living in Minnesota. On November 7th, 2024, Miller was arrested at an assisted living facility in Owatonna, Minnesota. He had been adopted, which complicated the search, but the genetic trail eventually confirmed it. In late 2024, police confronted him. He confessed.
My stocking cap.
That's your stocking cap?
It looked like it. Looked like one I had. All right, I did. I put him in the snow bank. She bent over, and I reached up, took out the knife, and just hit her once. And I can't believe what she said.
He told investigators how he picked Mary up and how the encounter turned violent. On March 27, 2025, Miller was sentenced to life in prison after pleading no contest to first-degree intentional homicide. Investigators are also examining his possible connection to the 1972 murder of 16-year-old Jolie Truelson in Minneapolis. After half a century, the case was finally closed. From DNA hidden in fabric to evidence waiting decades for science to catch up, these cases prove one thing: the truth doesn't disappear, it waits. If one of these stories stayed with you, let us know in the comments. And if you want more solved cold cases like this, make sure to subscribe. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.